Today, I'm gonna put a unique spin on a bezel set cabochon. Hey, I'm Katie, and today I'm gonna show you how to use wire to create a really unique square bezel for a cabochon. It's really awesome, and my inspiration came from actually a pair of pliers. We have these amazing AccuLoop square jaw pliers, and they help you make the same size square every time if you want. So these are really cool. These are kind of like the foundation of this project. And then the other inspiration was this beautiful blue opal cabochon that I'm gonna be using. Let's take a look at the supplies we're gonna use for this project. We're gonna be using the AccuLoop square pliers and the round pliers, flat nose plier, a chain nose plier, flush cutter, maybe a tweezer nose plier. Gonna need a chain and a cabochon. This one is 19 by 25. And then we're gonna need wire. I love using the 18 gauge German style wire for the base of the pendant. And for the back of the pendant, we're gonna be using either 26 or 28 gauge wire to secure it. All right, so let's get started. We are going to cut 2 feet of this 18 gauge wire. And then we're gonna start making our squares. And it kind of depends on the size of your cabochon. This cabochon took 16 squares to fill up the space around it, if that makes sense. I'm gonna be using the size 3 on the plier. So if you're gonna get bigger, if you're gonna use a larger one, then it may take less squares and vice versa. So I'm just gonna make a row of squares on that 3. Okay, so you wanna hold your wire, leave a good little tail right here because you're gonna need that to finish it off. And sharply just bend it underneath. Up. And then readjust to make a square. Can you see that? And just however you did that, you're going to pick up your pliers out of there and move them here, right beside it, right up next to it. And just repeat the same exact motion to create another square right beside it. You want to make sure you follow the same sequence, as in, like, you don't want to wrap your wire around the plier going the other way because you want them all to create this kind of like stair-step effect. So bring it up and see how it goes behind all that here on this side of it. Do that every single time. Just always make sure you're on that 3. And it creates a really cool square line that almost, it just like kind of hugs the cabochon, and it's really neat. You'll see what I mean once you start doing it, and don't get frustrated if you don't get it the first time, because it definitely took me a few times to be able to make it right. I kept forgetting, the first time I did this, I kept forgetting which way I was going. So now I just, yeah, like I don't like to put this part down. I'd like to go ahead and finish this as I'm doing it because it's easy to forget where you are. Okay, so I'm going to continue making this line of squares, and I'm working on the 3. Grab the wire with the 3 on the bottom, and I'm going to I almost push this wire down into a 90-degree angle. Really use the edges of that plier. And then I'm going to readjust my plier so I can keep bending that square so it's a complete square. Just like that. Then flip your plier over, put that 3 right there, and do the same thing. This is what my finished line of squares looks like, and it is 16 squares long, and that's going to fit perfectly on my cabochon. The other thing I will say, you may have to do some trial and error with this if you have a different sized cabochon, because you may find, oh, once you wrap it around, I like it a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter, or something like that. So I would definitely just do a little practice piece, and then you can really decide how many squares you want on your bezel. The next part is we're just going to kind of push those squares up so they're at a little angle, like that. And we're going to attach them up here at the top. And this part can be a little tricky because right now there's nothing holding the cabochon to the back. So you just have to do it, make it work. And I'm just gonna do a little wire wrap here. The first thing I'm gonna do is bend one of these up to 90 degrees. And then come up over here, cross that over. I'm going to make a little coil right at that bend. I'm going to flip it over, use the flat side of my flush cutter to trim that. And then make sure that's not poking out. Okay, now grab your round AccuLoop plier, and we're going to be making a loop up here at the top. So depending on the size chain you have, or if you want to be able to switch it from chain to chain, you can pick the size of your loop. You have several to choose from. So you're just going to push this away from you. And I'm going to use the 5. Seems like a good, actually, I'll use the 6. Bring it up around. And just coil over that first coil. And then trim it off in the back. Okay, so we need to straighten up this up here a little bit. And just kind of push it over your cab. Make sure you didn't misshape it, which I did a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, now we're going to attach it to the back. And so grab your 26 and 28 gauge wire. So I've got my 26 gauge wire, and we're basically just going to be sewing the cabochon in. The way that I do it is kind of just going across in some sort of artistic way. It's not the most perfect way in the back to finish it, but as long as it's secure, that's all I really care about, right? It doesn't have to be perfect on the back. Maybe you want to start with a smaller segment just to keep it manageable. And I'm just going to start with out the cabochon first, near the top. And wrap around that coil that's already there. Trim that off. You can lay your cab in now. I'm just going to go straight down. Oops. I went too far. I don't really want it to show in the front when I'm done, so I'm going to try to hide it back here. And just go around that a couple of times. We need to come in the front. Okay. This is all you do. You just go that way, and then let's see, maybe go back up, but just a little to the right. Just gonna sew it in. I would love to know if you guys have any other fun ways you think that you could end the back of this, because this was just what I wanted to do, but I know there's probably a really neat other way to do this. So you can kind of just go as much or as little as you want with this step. Maybe I'll go one more time across this way, and then I'll be done with this one, but I'll show you my other one where I wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. I really did a whole lot of reinforcement, and it's held up great. So you just decide what feels right to you. And then when you're done wrapping, you just trim off that little tail and just make sure it's not going to poke you or anything like that. And then the very last step is just to slide it onto your chain. You may need to open up your little jump ring with 2 pliers, just twist it open. Slide your pendant on and close it back. And that's it. One more time, let's look at the tools we used for this project. We used our AccuLoop pliers in square and round, chain nose plier, flat nose plier, and our tweezer nose plier just in case, and our flush cutter. And for the wire, we have our 18 gauge German style and the 26 and 28 gauge. Also, we had our 19 by 25 cabochon and our chain. If you need any of the tools or supplies we used for this project, check out the links in the description below. And while you're there, let us know what other cabochon projects you would like to see us do. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And now that you know how to make a square bezel set cabochon pendant, you can say, I made this.